Have you ever had a dream so vivid you mistook it for reality, or heard stories of alien abduction that sound more like science fiction than real life? Have you ever realized that all the alien abduction researchers claim abduction is too real to be a dream, but they have never demonstrated an expertise in or even quoted widely from dream studies? If most original experiencers report their abductions as dreams to hypnotists or researchers who directly profited from selling their lurid stories, why should we believe those hypnotists and researchers about dreams? This is a presentation of D-SETI, the dream study of extraterrestrial intelligence. This is called Dream Reality Confusion. Is it possible that all UFO Abduction Syndrome events may be explained using the following, especially acknowledging the precedence of shared telepathic and precognitive dreams and the possibility of anomalous physical effects, false memories, sleep paralysis, real etheric events, or out-of-body events, dream reality confusion? So I need to offer some important clarifications. Dream reality confusion refers to the confusion of nocturnal dreams with waking phase reality. It exhibits the monophasic bias in that it is labeling the waking phase as real and implies that dreams are unreal. There may be a particular manifestation of a general phase confusion phenomena that would explain many abductions. So I'm not saying that all abductions are nocturnal dreams, but I'm saying they're different phase of consciousness for which we're confusing waking reality, which is the common kind of skeptical stance that abductions are dreams or sleep paralysis. So I'm saying that that is not necessarily the accurate statement that these things are dreams and mistaken as reality, but something similar is happening. So real encounters happen through real yet dreamlike phases of consciousness. People bias the waking phase as the only phase of reality, and therefore they confuse the various phases, going, oh, that abduction event was real, therefore it must be waking phase. I'm saying that's the underlying confusion we need to address. So the ET-NHI encounter appears to be both real and dreamlike. I'm not denying their reality, saying that the lived experience of many abduction events are real, but they are interpreted through complex systems of intuition, sometimes involving dream reality confusion. The focus of this inquiry is on alien abduction and ET contact as a syndrome that requires special social groups or groups of experts to establish ethics and epistemology doctrines, peer support communities, or expert support communities. This inquiry focuses on the UFO Abduction Syndrome as defined in the 1992 Unusual Personal Experiences booklet and the related conceptions of alien abduction. We're going to look at some case studies of researchers and authors who develop communities. So we've got the hypothesis, we'll cover some prevalence rates, and we'll get to the case studies. So one hypothesis is alien abduction is primarily a dream or dreamlike experience, although it may be a special type of dream phenomena that involves anomalous physical manifestations or occurrences outside of this sleeping phase. Bedtime abductions may be explained as sleep paralysis, false memory, dream reality confusion, out-of-body experience, or real etheric astral events. Hypothesis, daytime abductions may be explained as altered states or trance states, false awakening, false memory, hybrid wake or dream states, real etheric or astral events. Monophasic bias suggests that real events cannot be dreamlike. Therefore, Westerners may associate the reality of abduction events with the waking phase. So it's important to note that false awakening dreams often feel real, and that dream reality confusion does happen. If the abduction is dreamlike, then the prognosis is empowering. The dreamer may use lucid dream or nightmare techniques. Sleep paralysis interventions may be relevant. Dream incubation may support communication. Intense emotions and experiences of abduction may not be stored as trauma at all, because they may be processed as potent dreams. Mental health professionals need to address the monophasic bias, thereby acknowledging the lived reality of abductees. Support communities need to address the myth of repressed memories, thereby acknowledging the science of memory retrieval. There's some ethical considerations. I don't think individual dream reality confusion is problematic, But when testimonies derived from dream reality confusion are used for public policies like laws or mental health practices, then it becomes problematic. Abduction support groups and professionals may suggest false memories of traumatic events, which may produce real PTSD experiences. So I'm saying that at the upper limit, we have false memories being created simply by conversations or books about abduction. And most stringent, you need to have a unethical or like bad hypnotist, but there's some spectrum between the two, and reality lies between the two. So we need to consider that to do ethical work with abduction testimonies. If abduction events are dreamlike, then the ethics and epistemology of dream work may apply. So why does this matter? If abduction and NHI encounters are dreamlike, then we may study and work with them just like dreams. We're not powerless victims. We can work with abductions like recurrent nightmares or sleep paralysis. We can know high strangeness in the exact same way that we know REM dream bizarreness. Missing time can be found just like forgotten dreams. I have a prediction. Bringing awareness to dream reality confusion and the mechanisms of false memory regarding UFO abduction syndrome will cause 1. The reversal of false memories, 2. ET-NHI encounter testimony that is inexplicable except through encounters with ontologically distinct yet dreamlike entities. So I'm saying that when we talk about dream reality confusion, false memories in the context of abduction, the false memories regarding abduction and ET hypothesis and all these things, if there are false memories, they can be released, and then we can actually go down a layer to the raw data of testimony about an NHI encounter that had been interpreted through that abduction lens, but something else is actually happening or causing that, which I say is dreamlike. So the hypothesis here is that many UAP researchers will tell of their secret encounter dreams that seems to drive them forward. If their motivation to study the phenomena is derived from dreams, but they have not consulted with a dream expert or developed the expertise themselves, then their assumptions may be derived from the monophasic bias or dream reality confusion. So that's really important to know, that I'm saying that there is some level of dream literacy that is needed in order to say whether or not something was a dream. So how does this work? Dream reality confusion with the monophasic bias looks like this. Abduction events are dreamlike yet feel real. Abduction events have anomalous physical effects. Abduction events have consistent details and involve multiple people. So then those are all true statements, it seems to me, true, and involve sane people, right? So those seem true and they need explanation. So the monophasic bias then says dreams are unreal, they cannot have physical effects, and they do not involve multiple people or real dream places. Only the waking phase of experience of the physical world, inclusive of human culture, is real. Therefore, abductions are not dreams. Abductions are consciously recalled waking phase and physical events. Testimonies are historical and veridical accounts regarding consensus reality. So when we consider dream reality confusion outside of in context of the polyphasic perspective, right? That's the perspective that many phases of consciousness are real. This is what it looks like. So we say, hey, abduction events are dreamlike yet feel real. That's where we start. They have anomalous physical effects, sure. They have consistent details and involve multiple people. The polyphasic bias or the perspective might say dreams are real, they can have physical effects, and involve multiple people in real dream places. So this is sort of just a direct expression of dream shamanism as we understand it from cross-cultural studies. Every phase of consciousness and the non-human world is real, the interrelationships of which may be mediated through dreams or shamanic states. Therefore, abductions are a special type of dream with anomalous physical effect that involves real entities. Abductions are consciously recalled events involving multiple phases of consciousness in many domains of experience. Testimonies must be interpreted like dreams, which may involve veridical statements about consensus reality. So it's slightly different here, and there's a little bit more need for interpretation and discussion about what we're actually saying. Compare the following prevalence rates with the 2% UFO Abduction Syndrome prevalence rates, which was reported by the 1992 Unusual Personal Experiences booklet. Dream reality confusion happens in around 11 to 25% of the general population. Hallucinations happen at a rate of 6 to 15% in the general population, and about 20% of those were visual, 20 were tactile, and 30 involved auditory hallucinations. Half of all hallucinations involve multiple types of hallucinations. Right? Sleep paralysis happens in 7.6% of the general population. Schizotypy, which is associated with alien abduction belief, happens in 4% of the population. 8% of dreams are considered to be exotic. So that includes lucid dreaming, healing dreams, dreams within dreams, out-of-body dreams, telepathic, mutual dreams, clairvoyant, precognitive, past life, initiation, and visitation dreams. And in this paper, extraterrestrial visitation was considered a visitation dream, along with the spirit of someone felt to be real. 23% of people have sense of presence in their room, while 6% of people have dreamed of an extraterrestrial. We've got 18% of people having been half awake and paralyzed in bed. Let's see where else. 11% have seen a flying object crash. 11% have seen an angel. Right? 6.3% have traveled to another planet in their dream. 10% of people have had an out-of-body experience at least once or twice in their life. So that's a prevalence rate of a really extraordinary phenomena that is associated with abduction, the UFO abduction syndrome. 15% of people, this is a lower limit, and we should simply just read this article or abstract because it really shows the controversy at hand. So there's a group of scholars, Nash, Wade, Gary, Loftus, Oates, and they're writing against another article, Bruin and Andrews. So Bruin and Andrews propose that 15% of people, or even fewer, are susceptible to false childhood memories. If this figure were true, then false memories would still be a serious problem, but the figure is much higher than 15%. False memories occur even after a few short and low-pressure interviews. And with each successive interview, they become richer, more compelling, and more likely to occur. It is therefore dangerously misleading to claim that the scientific data provide an upper bound on the susceptibility to memory errors. We also raise concerns about the peer review process. This is interesting too. There's a sense of group contagion in false memories. So when a group of researchers questioned groups of people who are participating in online communication styles, and they emulated that in their experiments, they found that former group members exhibited social contagion following all the interaction styles, where they produced more false information in later individual recall and exhibited collective false memories. So these are situations where researchers have produced a sense of social contagion with false memories. Now, these are all about word lists, so it's not a real world kind of rich autobiographical memory, but it is a way of measuring false recall. So given what you now know about prevalence rates, could it be possible that there are, as of yet, undiscovered types of exotic or anomalous dream phenomena? Could it be possible that alien abduction is a special type of dream phenomena that involves false awakening, dream reality confusion, or other anomalous yet common events like visual hallucination? Is it more likely that space aliens kidnap people from their beds, wipe their minds, then put them back, or that people have dream reality confusion regarding a vivid false awakening dream or something like that? So let's talk about case studies. I'm offering these as potential examples. These are things that made me think and identify this as a topic of inquiry. It's a documentation of inquiry. It's not a final statement. I'm not accusing anyone of dream reality confusion. I'm just saying this is something I'm considering right now in my inquiry, and I'm documenting it. I'm focused on the 1992 UFO Abduction Syndrome and its effects. Not all abduction falls under that, but the word we use has been deeply influenced by that document, so I am looking to it. I ask questions of all the case studies, at least in my heart, that kind of inform this presentation. So what experience or education regarding dream studies do the researcher or experiencer have? Do they have awareness of pulse awakening, sleep paralysis, prevalence rates of dream reality confusion, anomalous dream phenomena like telepathy, shared dreaming, visitation, etc., cross-cultural studies of dreams and dream cultures? Does the experience begin or end with a bed, walking, driving, or other times when dreams, trance, or altered states may occur? Can physical evidence be explained as psychosomatic mechanisms given the precedents of stigmata, OBE, apports, etc.? Does the experiencer or researcher actually present evidence for corroborated witnessing of the entity encounter, like transcribed statements? Assertions that other people were there but don't remember or talk about it seem to be problematic to me. A great example of dream reality confusion, one of my earliest stories is around seeing a light figure come to the front door of my house. And I was looking down from my bed through the window to the front yard. So that's a great example of a potential moment of dream reality confusion. Likewise, the dreams I had right around the time my dad saw a UFO visit our house are just that. They are dreams, and they've always been dream memories, and I've used them as a source for regression, but I say that regression hypnosis is also dreamlike. Same thing with my dreams that resulted in body marks and the resulting contact or communications. I say that is with a dream character who takes the form of a tall gray NHI. Dan Berg's session, my first client, I thought of it as more or less veridical or indicatory of extraterrestrial contact. So he had one of the most documented missing time experiences. I worked with him. We got to something like a remote viewing of his experience, and I thought, oh, there we go. That's it. That's what happened. And yet his refusal to accept that as truth, even though he promised me he would, right? Showed me that no, actually something else happened in the regression. It was something meaningful, psionic, telepathic, or something like that. But it wasn't remembrance per se of long forgotten trauma of visiting space aliens. It wasn't that. And it caused me to open up to this hypothesis that it was both a dreamlike and a real event. Let's talk about Kathleen Marden. She's the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, and she's been head of the experiencer research team at MUFON. She's written a book about what to do when you're abducted. So she has the most sophisticated discussion about dream reality confusion I have found. And this in terms of literature. So I asked the question, I said, are any of these researchers, does anyone quote prevalence rates of sleep paralysis in their arguments and things like that? But I've only really seen Kathleen Marden do that, and she's done that pretty well. So I'm very grateful for her work and research there and her writing. But I just wanted to share some quotes from that to kind of share with you what I'm thinking about or how I'm thinking about it. So this is from her book, What to Do When You're Abducted. She says, I had a very strange experience with Denise, her co-author of a book on alien abduction files. On February 2nd, 2013, that might have been an abduction, but I'm not certain. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not a football fan, so I spent the evening in my office conferencing with an experiencer on Australia. As soon as the game ended, I turned in for the night. My next memory was awakening with a start with messages streaming into my mind. At first, I attributed it to a dream. As I'd been overworked on deadline for Alien Abduction Files, my book with Denise, and had been struggling with fatigue from overwork. Yet I was awake and the messages continued to flow into my mind. I thought of hypnopompic hallucinations, but that description didn't fit the bill. It seemed that I was receiving a rapid download of information. I had a vague memory of finding myself in an alien environment, small, dimly lit room. When attempting to shift my position, my lower back and the left side of my head ached in pain. The pain was so intense that it hardly seemed worth turning over. I had no memory of injuring myself, so this was shocking. Had I been sleepwalking? Did I injure myself in a sleep state but remained in deep sleep? As far as I know, I don't sleepwalk. My husband hadn't awoken, and I hadn't done anything that could possibly account for the pain I was experiencing. Why was I feeling something dreadful had occurred? As time went on, my curiosity got the better of me, so I arranged for Denise to come to my home and work with me in hypnosis. While tapping into my subconscious mind, I remember the sensation of being jarred awake when I was dropped from above, coming down hard on a solid surface. I opened my eyes to a shocking scene. Inches from my face was the round, large head of a small gray. So I have some other slides for Marden coming up, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep, here we go. So let's go back. So now I want to introduce Robert Bigelow, who funded the Unusual Personal Experiences book in a related conference series. He had silly dreams of entity visitation. Says maybe they're more than dreams. So let's get to it.
You and I have some shared interests, clearly, in the world of UFOs. But now, your relationship to this is obviously something that you've carried for so long. It's been an obsession of yours for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started with this, but what personal experiences, if any, have you had?
Well, when I was probably 7 or 8, I used to have what I chalked up all my life to just being silly dreams. And I had maybe 5 or 6 of these dreams, and I could never make sense of them. And I would be laying in bed on my side, and typical dream, always the same. There would be 3 short somethings in a kind of monk robe, and so I couldn't see any face, couldn't see any appendages, and these 3 whatevers were standing there, and they were not too far from my eye level as far as the heights and so forth.
So these like child size?
Yeah, and so there was nothing I was an avid comic book reader, but there was nothing in the whole genre of comic books that related to that, or movies. And we didn't have television in Las Vegas till 53 or 54. And even after that, it was terrible broadcasting, at first. But so it made no sense to me. And so over my lifetime, I never mentioned it to anybody, including my wife. It's funny how you keep things secret, and just kind of for no good reason. Maybe I would be embarrassed to talk about it, but I finally thought, well, maybe it was just dreams, maybe it was something else, and so that was a first event personally that I had at that time in the subject.
When did you start to connect the idea?
So he goes on to talk about his work with John Mack and Bud Hopkins and the Roper Poll, and he ends up saying that he kind of locks these dreams away, and he doesn't want to know anymore if he's been abducted or not. He has chosen to stay in the ambiguity. Is it a dream? Is it real? That's where he's at in this moment. So UFO Abduction Syndrome, which he supported through the Roper Poll and publication to 100,000 mental health practitioners, defines abduction in terms of disturbing dreams and sleep disturbances and imagery related to abduction experiences. He's saying that the authors in this booklet are saying it's unacceptable to subjects or therapists, and they may take some effort to get those memories out, and there's probably 2% of the population that has this. So John Mack has been very influential in this, and this is his appearance on Oprah. He puts forward several testimonies, and we'll just sample them. This testimony here with Peter Faust, it really is a classic sort of sleep paralysis dream scenario that feels very real. And so I'll click around and see if we can get to a spot where Oprah says, "Do you think it was a dream?" And he says, "No, I don't want it to be."
Book it middle of the day, or you?
They happen at nighttime.
Okay, so when you're sleeping, or not sleeping.
What happened was, for me, the conscious memories that I had was, in the middle of the night, I woke up, very conscious, walked over to my living room, saw something in the room, felt the white light, felt the paralysis, and then I fell asleep. Several hours later, I woke up and had these intense emotions associated with the experience that just, I couldn't fathom. Like, why was I so scared? Why was I terrified? What was...
You had a bad dream.
That's what I thought. That's what I wanted to believe. That's what I wanted to believe for years. And I think that's what most people want to believe. until...
And why do you want to believe that? Because
I don't want to think I'm abducted by aliens. That was the last thing I wanted in my life.
this sounds like a bad tabloid story.
That's what it sounded
Let's
like to me
zoom
for a
up
long
to
Have
when
experienced you.
Why these people are not psychiatrically disturbed.
Well, okay.
Because I was concerned, when I first heard about this, I thought this must be madness. But when I heard that hundreds of thousands of people
Why
all
not a
over the
publicity
country...
stunt? Why not just
Because these people acknowledge they've had these experiences.
Yes, and I've read interviews with people who have come forward years ago who wish that they hadn't at this point. Go ahead.
So when I heard that hundreds of thousands of people all over the country, from various polls, we know maybe even millions of people have had very similar experiences. They don't know each other. The details that they're describing were not in the media. They have nothing to gain by it. They feel ashamed about it. That's number one. When I also heard that this was occurring in children as young as 2 or 3 years old, that ruled out personality explanations. It's associated with UFOs independently observed by witnesses, by media, by neighbors. It's also associated with physical findings and, as said before, the people, when examined, are not psychiatrically.
those are all really great things we need to keep in a consideration. So when I'm saying things, this is dreamlike, I'm saying it is dreamlike, but it also has these side effects. So I'm saying something can be dreamlike and have these real side effects. And I think it's more reasonable to believe that, because we'll talk about some precedents of those side effects, than believe that space aliens are physically doing something and then wiping the mind, and that they only do it related to these times. Here's another experience with Oprah and John Mack, and this is another case. And we'll just start it and click around a little bit too. Again, it's sort of like, it talks about bedtime. They say, everyone says they are awake and conscious, but then everything resolves into, and then I fell asleep on the bed or something like that.
We're talking today with Harvard University psychiatrist John Mack, who studied the cases of about 100 people, at least, who claim that they've been abducted by aliens. One of Dr. Mack's patients, Randy here, says his abduction occurred while he was awake. He is here with his sister, Glinda, who says she, too, has been abducted since childhood.
And we remember him coming up to our room
And saying?
And saying there was a spaceship outside and there were little guys around his bed and they put the dog to sleep, which sounds bizarre.
Okay, that's all we need to get to is it's a bedtime abduction. There's paralysis type stuff. There's fantastic beings and stuff like that.
Dr. Mack,
Just keep
but we're
going.
talking to
Here's Gary Nolan. I think we're only going to we'll find a couple events because they're interesting. This one is in his interview with Coterre, where he tells the story of again, little people in the room, and then identifying the cover of
your willingness to
any scientist, in my mind.
You have had other experiences too, haven't you?
Yeah.
Can you talk about those?
Here we go.
You know, this is probably the more unusual one, and again, it's I'm hardly the only individual to have had this. Is you wake up as a young boy, I would have been probably 6 or 7 because it was in our first house that my parents had bought in Windsor, of little men in the bedroom. You know, I mean, I was awake. I knew they were there. I could see them.
Scared?
I can't remember being scared, but I remember telling my parents the next day about it.
Could it have been a dream?
It could have been a dream. But so here's the interesting thing. I saw these little men in the bedroom, and it went on for, I guess, a few weeks, and then it just stopped. So I promptly forgot about it. But what was critical was about 20 years again later, actually here in Palo Alto, I was at a used bookstore, and I pulled out a book, and I'm pretty sure it was either John Mack's or Whitley Strieber's book, Communion. And there on the front cover was, and I can feel the hair on my arms going up, was what I saw.
That's the classic grey alien face.
I remember I dropped the book.
He goes on to talk about collective unconscious stuff, but it really shows that he also says that this is it is one of the major reasons why he considers that the phenomena could be a life form. So let's get to a second story which is sort of telling.
And actually, let me talk a little bit about that caudate thing, because feel it. I had, I'll just say this is something I haven't talked about ever publicly before. I had an experience in London once that I still don't understand to this day. It was like, I don't know why this always happens at 3:00 in the morning. It's hilarious, but for a lot of people. And I woke up and my whole body was just pulsing with like some sort of electric fire, like nothing I'd ever felt before. And feel it, but hear it and feel it from the tip of my toes to my fingers, whole body. And right as I woke up, it wasn't even words. It was more like but it was clear. It was the words, "This is how you connect." And it went on for about 15 seconds. And then I just said, whatever, stop. This has got to stop. And
so it does stop. It does stop. It happens the next day. He ends up having a conversation with Jacques Vallée about it, who says, hey, it's probably sounds like Kundalini. He looks it up. Kundalini, it doesn't explain his experience. So then he talks to his neighbor, the head of Stanford psychiatry, and he says, do you ever see any of this? And she says, oh, it doesn't fit our frameworks or whatever. So he considers it to be anomaly. It is a very obvious example of the vibratory state, which is associated with out-of-body experiences and astral projection dreams. I experienced it several times, first as a dream of humming bees around my body, and then the next sort of manifestation was I became convinced a washer was out of balance next to that the neighbors installed a washer and it was banging against the wall. And another time I thought it was an earthquake. And then finally I realized that every single thing in this universe has a vibration, and that if I shift my consciousness, I can feel it actually. And that shift of consciousness is very similar to what happens when we go into sleep or come out of sleep. So this is a great example of what happens when people consult people who seem like they should be experts in dreams, but haven't actually sort of cited literature around it, and so I looked up to see, does Jacques Vallée, has he had experience writing about a lot of dreams in this context? And no, he hasn't really. A lot of folklore, but not much about dreams. And it's like, what about Dr. Roberts? Has she written on dreams? It's like, no, she hasn't at all. So,
and I have.
So what would happen if we continue this inquiry? Would we continue to find claims that abductions are not dreams without references to literature or actual dream experts? Would we continue to find abduction disclosure researchers motivated by their dream reality confusion like Bigelow and Nolan? Right? Bigelow did something very similar to Nolan. He consulted with the head of Harvard psychiatry, John Mack. And John Mack says, no, I haven't seen anything like it. But if you look through Mack's reference lists, and he doesn't have much from dream studies. He's not quoting these prevalence rates and things like that. So, which is easier to believe? Dreams may have anomalous psychophysiological effects such as stigmata or apports, which may explain the rare piece of physical evidence, or that space aliens kidnap humans for fantastic sexual trauma. The mind forgets it because of alien mind control or trauma repression, and the hypnotist can retrieve the memory, and that we don't have any evidence for it because there's a secret government based upon re-engineered UFO technology that they use to keep everything secret. So that's just a question. So there's some logic I want to apply to shortcut the investigation. So hundreds of abduction reports are published every year. Do we need to investigate every one to say that abductions are real and dreamlike or whatever? So we just have to point out UFO Abduction Syndrome by definition deals with dreams. The primary argument for the reality of abduction is that they are not dreams, but the abduction researchers have not demonstrated an expertise about dreams. Therefore, if we verify that the experiencer researchers are not aware of dream studies literature, we do not need to investigate each case. We can make conclusions that it was likely a dream, a special dream, or anomalous physical effect, etc. So I have a challenge. Select any prominent UFO researcher, experiencer, writer on physical abduction. If not primary researcher, then track back. For example, Keene tracks back to Hopkins. Blumenthal goes to Mack. And then scan back and forth about that secondary researcher or writer to see what they have to say about it. Like Blumenthal says he believes in Mack's assessment it's not sleep paralysis or dreams. Question the experiencer or researcher's statement. Does the testimony involve bed, sleep paralysis, sleeping, trance, altered states? Could the testimony be explained by an exotic dream or altered state of consciousness, given that these may produce anomalous physical effects like stigmata or appors? Is hypnosis or similar techniques involved? Do they demonstrate an awareness of sleep paralysis, false awakening, shared dreaming, etc.? Do they demonstrate an awareness of cross-cultural studies of shamanic states or spiritual religious practice? Do they cite any papers or research about dreams or prevalence rates of exotic dream phenomena? Are there precedents for similar physical evidence in other supernatural literature, such as body marks or stigmata, implants, and spiritualist appors? If you find a claim, please let me know. That if you find an abduction that's conclusively not a dream, send me some info at daniel@dseti.org. I love to investigate cases like that or explore them. So I did my own challenge myself. And of all the major abduction researchers, Hopkins, Jacobs, and Mack, I have not seen many or sophisticated writings about dreams or sleep paralysis. I found Mack has not really written on dreams in a way that makes me confident he knows prevalence rates and like what dream content analysis actually is or anything like that. So Marden appears to be the authoritative writer on the subject. And so from her history of academic research on UFO and ET contact experiencers, which she updated in 2023, she writes, for many years, academic psychologists have offer the speculation that sleep paralysis can explain why some individuals believe they have experienced nighttime abductions from their bedrooms. Some abduction experiencers have awoken paralyzed with shadowy figures standing behind their beds, hovering ahead. An estimated 30% of the population experiences sleep paralysis at least once. I've spoken with several people who have sleep paralysis, but no one has confused it with ET abduction because they have a long history of sleep paralysis and could recognize it as such. Most said the weight on their chest, it was the most difficult part of sleep paralysis. They felt as if they were being suffocated. So the MUFON experiencer research team addressed this possibility in a study of 561 experiencers. The two-phase study began in 2015, ended 2018. Phase 1 asked the question, have you awakened unable to move or your body or cry out? Of the 510 survey takers who answered the question, 74% said yes. So here we are seeing some very sophisticated conversation around this, and I really do appreciate that. So now I can say, oh, okay, the people are really reporting it is not sleep paralysis. Why? Because they're familiar with the suffocating aspects of sleep paralysis. Therefore, this says to me is a bedtime experience. It involves different phases of consciousness. It involves people who have higher prevalence rates of sleep paralysis than normal. And therefore, we're likely dealing with a new type of dream phenomena, similar to sleep paralysis, but with other characteristics, right? So she even goes on to say, the onset of an ET contact experience, particularly when it occurs during sleep, might possibly be generated by hypnagogic or hypnopompic sleep anomalies. However, abductees suspected of having real experiences due to the presence of conscious memory of the event, eyewitnesses, missing time, physical evidence, etc., reports subtle but significant differences between their experiences and sleep anomalies. Sleep anomalies do not leave evidence of an intrusion in our environment. I say my sleep anomalies does. I say I have had that direct experience and I know the difference. That's what I'm saying. I'm testifying that. I've had geometric marks on my body associated with dream and dreamlike memories of encounters with a tall gray extraterrestrial that have been associated by corroborated witnessing of light in the sky, that's my wife's testimony. No, we haven't reported it to MOFON. No, nobody really cares, but it's probably in my diaries, and I wrote about it in my academic kind of journal things. So there you go. And I'm saying, nope, I'm not confused. It's a dream. The dream characters tell me it's a dream, and yet there's the mark on the body. So there you have that's a thing you have to explain. I'm saying it's a different type of dream phenomena, but one that really involves what they're saying here. That's what I'm saying too. That's why I'm advocating for it being understood as a dream, because there's these other aspects, right? So she's saying a significant percent of abduction experiencers are awake and observe a sudden beam of light enter their environment. Yeah, that's important. They might have heard a distinctive sound, feel a tingling, observe activities in their house. On the onset of experience, they might not be paralyzed. However, I have photographed injuries experiencers sustained when they resisted being taken, so not all experiencers are paralyzed immediately. They might be able to move or cry out, etc., throw objects and things like that. So that's how it goes. I'm going to just let you know that I'm aware of her statements around intractable skeptics who say that it all resolves to sleep paralysis. This writing makes me really consider what's going on, because she describes me, except I'm not a government agent. I'm not brought up about people. I'm not calling anyone liars. I'm saying that these real experiences can be dreamlike as well as real, and that there is a bias called a monophasic bias that makes us say these real events have to be a waking phase event. That's why there's this fetishization of the conscious recall and the awareness and things like that. So I'm saying that if we explain these things in terms of phase of consciousness that has physical side effects, like spiritualist phenomena often do, then we might be able to understand it more than we have been, or communicate about it in a different way. So I had a challenge around this too, where I'm talking to Dr. Sean, my program director, Dr. Sean Eshbjorn Hargens, and we were talking about the idea that most or all abduction are dreams or dreamlike things, or that they could be explained through his concept of doubleness. But then he referenced a case from Dr. Master's Identified Flying Objects book, and the case is wild. So basically what happens is a man and his wife and business partner are involved in this experience in Gundia. Basically, the business partner wakes up, sees this, the wife, Amy, being floated on a beam of light outside of a window. And then about 90 minutes or a couple hours later, Amy is found about 800 kilometers away. That would have taken like 9 hours to drive to. And I just want to play this clip because they were all sleeping. They all had sort of dreamlike experiences, but she certainly believes she was on a spaceship.
I don't remember being taken, just like I don't remember being dropped off, but I was asleep when it happened.
She may have been dreaming, but Amy Rylance says she didn't imagine it when a spaceship landed in her front yard and took her away.
Do you believe in aliens or UFOs? I do now. I definitely do now. I believe in it now because I've seen it. And I know what I saw.
Amy's friend Petra was also in the house that night and claimed she was...
She also had a geometric body mark as well. Geometric body mark. Just want to show that off again, right? So that's a triangle mark of these sort of very characteristic puncture wounds that I believe are associated with, and I have found proof that these things are associated with dreams and dreamlike experiences of entities. So there's very characteristic geometries in these things. And
I don't remember
let's keep going. There's transcripts, right? She woke up in a spaceship. She doesn't remember being taken or dropped off, but she says she remembers 7 days. I've had an experience of dreaming 7 days or a year or a lifetime that was on, they call it Mexican dream herb actually, and I had some tea of it, and I had this rather lengthy dream experience. So I think that the content of her experience and spaceships and things like that could be dreamlike. She says she's sleeping, except for the fact she has a mark on the body and was found teleported away, right? So how is that possible, right? So from the time that you went to sleep in Tiaro and woke up near Mackay, how long was that period? 3 hours. You didn't get on a bus? No, there's no way. It take you 8 to 9 hours to drive there. So that's amazing. Seriously believe that your wife was abducted? Yeah, you know so because there's no other way, is what they say. But I say, are there other ways? Are there other precedents for this? And so I looked for that, and I found very quickly that there's no direct precedents in dream studies that I found, but in anthropology and parapsychology about a fast walking phenomena among Aborigines. Yeah, that's Australian, so they're on the same country, who can travel around 600 kilometers in 2 to 3 hours, which is very, very similar to Amy's rate. It's also known as parateleportation. It's been connected to research that ties in experiencers from Australia, Brazil, and Tibet. The research includes reference lists that link back to 1871, and the research is generally written by people interested in OBE, spiritualism, mediumship, and parapsychology, which are arguably dreamlike. So I'm saying that the lived experience of teleportation is said to involve no recollection, aka missing time, or something like an OBE, right? So therefore, it also may be considered dreamlike. It's a perfect example of dreamlike phenomena having anomalous physical effects, right? That's what I'm arguing here. This is kind of no, this is real, but no, we can also we can understand it through dreamlike precedents. So we can acknowledge the reality and explain it through dreamlike precedents. That way we don't have to presume alien spacecraft. Yeah. That way her experience can connect with the experience of dream shaman living on her land who have done something very, very similar. Right? So what if the NHI UAP event were primarily dreams with physical side effects rather than physical events with dream side effects? Could abduction events be understood as a special dream phenomena with anomalous physical effects? Could the nature of its physical evidence prove that dreams are real? That's where I'm at now. I go, okay, the reality of the abduction event, the lived experience, the sort of strange evidence we have, could that be physical proof for the reality of dreams, not necessarily the reality of space alien abductors? They might prove the reality of dreams about space alien abductors, and it may unfold through a physical interaction with a non-human other, which I'm envisioning as a light entity, orb, or craft or something like that. But could the nature of its physical evidence prove that dreams are real? So now we reach the point where, after a few reflections, thanks for being with me. This was a very difficult video for me to make. I've been making very difficult videos where I do research. I get really sort of angry about a scenario and I present it, and then I watch the presentation, and then I make an iteration on that. I realize I'm not presenting in the way I want, or I need more information. In this case, I was really opened by Kathleen Marden's work, her reference lists. I say, someone actually has deeply considered the literature of false memory. Someone has deeply considered literature relating to hypnopompic, hypnagogic hallucinations. And so that is really wonderful to see because she has played an essential role in MUFON and the history of abduction. So that's the place where I might start to say, okay, let's start figuring out what type of special dream phenomenon is this? Because she has got great writing about how it's not this and it's not that. It's not sleep paralysis. It's not hypnagogia. It's something else. And she's saying it's space aliens, but I'm not ready to take that step yet. I'm saying all of those physical effects that they're investigating and recording evidence for, yes, those are physical effects, but they might reveal extended human capacities that are mediated through dreams or dreamlike states of being, phases of consciousness, rather than a physical event. So that's where I'm at with it. Thank you for being with me on these journeys. And I really just want to come back to why I'm doing this and the reason why I'm going on this inquiry to see, is there a dream reality confusion? Is there a phase confusion happening here? Is so that we can really see, so that I can really see, are these abduction events truly what they purport to be? Or is something much more complex happening? But that complexity could be understood through dream studies, which does explore the complexity of human experience through dreams. That's psychological development, that's shamanic experience, that's neurophysiological. There's many ways that we have looked at dreams, and there's cross-disciplinary, cross-cultural experiences with dream studies that could be happening with abduction research or experiencer research once we acknowledge that we don't have to fight against dreams and dreaming phases of consciousness in order to demonstrate the reality of the abduction event. That's the message here, is that the monophasic bias is impacting abduction research because it's fighting against its true nature. If abduction is truly dreamlike, but also real, then if we have to fight against dreams to prove its reality, the battle, it's a divided front. It's not going to move forward in the way we need to. So if we say, yeah, okay, dreams, abduction encounters, they are dreamlike, but they're also very, very real. We don't have to fight against the dreamlike nature of the highly strange nature of these encounters in order to acknowledge their reality. We say, oh, they're an experience. Let's acknowledge their reality as these experiences, but engage in interpretation. In all dream shamanic experience and cultures and things like that, there is a practice of listening and sharing dreams and then interpreting it. It's often very culturally specific. And we need to engage our own culturally specific methods of relating to dream testimony, religious testimony, in order to work with it. We can't just look at it like an objective kind of science. We have to engage with it. So that's the invitation. Thank you for going on this journey with me. And if life is but a dream, right, these experiences of abduction and encounters with them in the waking phase perhaps might really demonstrate how dreamlike this waking phase actually is. And with that, may you be well.